Well, I just got done watching Fan and Fanatic 51, Kristen and D's Blackcatfeline's video on SmackDown and I guess Raw. I didn't have a problem with their SmackDown review. I just watched it. I couldn't really give you perspective of SmackDown. The only thing I've seen of SmackDown was Kane's promo, which was epic. Didn't really care for the music playing in the background. I guess they just wanted to add more to the emotion of Kane. But I did have two real big problems with their video, and it was just disagreements. It's just, let's not get carried away here and call this drama. I just had a couple of disagreements that I really wanted to discuss within the video that I saw that I really just, it kind of like bothered me. Well, actually, there might have been three, but we'll see when we go on. Alright, they were talking about the Nexus angle, and they talked about how they were still into it, which is fine. If you're into the Nexus angle, more power to you. If you're enjoying it, go right ahead, enjoy it all you want. Me personally, I don't really care about the Nexus angle anymore. I haven't cared about it for a couple weeks now. It just hasn't done anything for me. It hasn't garnered any interest out of me. I'm not interested in Raw tonight as far as Nexus is concerned. I'm wondering what they're going to do with The Miz, but that's all bias. But with the Nexus angle, okay, they pointed out that they were kind of irked at the fact that people were hopping on the bandwagon that this angle was really hot. And then we all kind of said that it died when Bryan Danielson got released. Here's why we said this, and I think you will agree with this. The reason why we said this is because they fired the most experienced guy out of the group. They pretty much fired the most interesting out of the 8. Alright? If you ask anybody, the one person they were interested in when it came to that NXT angle was Bryan Danielson. Maybe not everybody. Maybe there'll be some people that will say other people. But whatever. That's their choice. But Bryan Danielson was the most interesting thing on that whole angle. Not to mention, he got fired for the dumbest reasons. And those two reasons would be choking Justin Roberts with a tie and spitting in John Cena's face. Keep in mind, Bryan Danielson got fired for two things that got the angle over, or got the heat on the NXT, or the Nexus. Which ultimately meant, or at least in my mind, that now Nexus is going to have to be dumbed down because whatever they do could get this angle screwed up even further, get another guy fired because they did something they weren't supposed to do. And that was my concern. Especially when Bryan Danielson got released. I mean, of course I was pissed because it's Bryan fucking Danielson. But at the same time, if he's going to get fired for something that wasn't even that violent, or even that controversial, I mean, it was controversial in the sense of we had not seen anything like this in years, and it was something interesting. People now have to suffer, the fans have to suffer, because they wanted to see something great, they got to see something great, and one of them had to get their job cost for that. Us fans wanted to see Bryan Danielson get this push. She also made mention that people were saying that Bryan Danielson was made to be the leader. I don't remember anybody saying this. I don't even remember myself saying this. I do remember saying that he would be, like, not the leader, but, like, the guy behind the leader. The guy who's important, but not as important as the leader. I think everybody knew for a fact that Wade Barrett was going to be the leader of this whole faction. And Bryan Danielson was going to be the guy below him, but he was still above the other 6 guys. So he was going to be right there. And again, like they just mentioned in this video, they've all had mic time. Now imagine if Bryan Danielson would have had mic time and be able to explain his side of the story as far as the Nexus angle is concerned. Now, just because Wade Barrett, let's just say Bryan Danielson would stay. Just because Wade Barrett starts off as the leader does not necessarily mean that Bryan Danielson can't be the leader later on in the program. Prime's examples of this, or the one that comes to mind, is the Nation of Domination. When the Nation started, it was led by Farouk, and later on, it would garner The Rock into the faction. But eventually, Farouk took a step down, and The Rock became the leader. So, just because Wade Barrett was going to start off as the leader doesn't mean he was going to finish as the leader. Somewhere along the lines, they could have made Bryan Danielson the leader. Who knows? We will never know because Bryan Danielson got fired for it. I mean, really, it's the mentality of, we understand that maybe Bryan Danielson wasn't the leader, but he was going to play an important role. And there was the third problem that really got to me. You have to understand that there is a reason why we all thought Bryan Danielson had a huge role. You started to say something like, oh, it's because Bryan Danielson did something to John Cena, and then you compared it to Justin Gabriel. There's a big difference between Bryan Danielson and the rest of the people that beat up on John Cena that night. Okay, we'll just talk about that night because Bryan Danielson was involved. All of them just did their finishers on him. All of them, well, okay. Only Skip Sheffield did his finisher. David Otunga did his finisher. Who else did the finisher? Wade Barrett did his finisher, and Justin Gabriel. And Bryan Danielson got a cheap shot. But out of all 5 of those guys, Bryan Danielson, the one thing that was notably different between him and the other guys was that right before Danielson spit in his face, even right before he kicked him in the head, Bryan Danielson shouted, not once, not twice, but about 5 or 6 times, "You're not better than me." And he screamed it. And while he screamed it, everyone was looking. All the NXT guys allowed Bryan Danielson to shout at him, then spit in his face, and then proceed to kick him in the head. Which hinted towards a big match between John Cena and Bryan Danielson. Whether it was intentional or not, that led to a big hint that, yes, Bryan Danielson could have a big role within this angle. Because, like what we were just saying, or what you just said, Justin Gabriel can't have a leader role because he can't speak. Well, neither can most of the guys, with the exception of Wade Barrett and Bryan Danielson. 2 guys that can speak. So, that's my fundamental disagreements here. I mean, if you like the angle, that's fine, but I think people have a justified reason for NXT not being interesting anymore. Oh, and you said something along the lines of, you don't think John Cena is burying them, and that John Cena... Here's why I think the Raw, I think it was the Raw before Money in the Bank, why I feel that was a bad move, and it kind of buried Nexus. Yes, Nexus beat Cena in a match, 6-on-1, after doing their finishers. Here's where I have the problem. Nexus was going to proceed to continue the beatdown on John Cena. Cena not only hit them and ran out and got the chair and chased them off, he did not sell anything at all. Nothing. He just received 3 or 4 finishers, and he received a beatdown during a match. And they were going to proceed to beat him down even more afterwards. And yet, he didn't sell one move. He pretty much acted like as if he was not hit at all. If he wasn't bleeding, you wouldn't have noticed that he got hurt. Okay? And he bled. Oh, where was the Texas Athletic Commission? Anyhow, he didn't sell any of the moves. And he did the same thing Money in the Bank. And he pretty much destroyed 2 of the Nexus people. Alright, this angle's been going on for a month and a half. The angle should have been going for at least 2 months with Nexus just completely dominating. And then finally, WWE just completely has enough. Now, do I agree Cena should be the guy to fight him off? Who knows? There's so many ways you could have done this. But I guess if you wanted to make this a big-time feud, yeah, you would have to lump in Cena. But I think WWE's going to start... I think, in my opinion, WWE should alert Cena, you should start selling moves. Because it's... Even if Cena makes Superman comebacks, he can make Superman comebacks and it will be believable. Because I think the reason why people hate his comebacks so much is he doesn't sell anything. Because Shawn Michaels always makes Superman comebacks. The one thing that Shawn Michaels always did, and I know it's not a fair comparison because Shawn Michaels is Shawn Michaels, but Shawn Michaels always sold. He always sold all the moves done to him. Even if he made the comeback and he won, he always sold. Like, take his match with Kurt Angle at Vengeance. He won that match, but the way he took it after he won, he looked like he got just completely destroyed and was in a train wreck, making Kurt Angle look legitimate. But that's the thing with Cena. Cena, when he makes his fighting comeback, he doesn't sell anything. He doesn't try to sell any injuries. He doesn't try to sell any hurt momentum that he just received beforehand. That's where I think people have a problem with Cena as far as his Superman comebacks. So yeah, I'm one of those people that doesn't care about the Nexus angle anymore. If you care for it, perfectly fine. You're entitled to enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. This is just fundamental disagreements, and this is what I think. I'm not speaking for anybody else. This is what I think. If I came off as that, or if I said that, I apologize. But in my opinion, the Nexus angle is it's just there right now to me. It's just there, and there's, for me, no reason to care. That's just me. I don't know. I'm out.